graphics, we work with graphics, and he'll be capturing the graphics that hold your decisions for the strategic plan. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you for the willingness to engage us. I think the timing is right. I know you've all been in crisis like every hospital in the nation. You're hanging in there, and I applaud you for that, and I respect each of you. I know when you ran for election, you never knew you'd be leading a healthcare district through a pandemic and beyond, so hang in there. I'd like to really turn it over to you just for a minute and to hear from each of the board members whether you have any questions that I can answer in my remarks or any comments about our proposal that you'd like to share with the group. And if somebody on your end could just be the MC for each of the board members, and then I'll take it back from there.
Okay. Well, let me introduce you to Director Bush, Charlie Bush. And we'll start with
Hello.
you. Do you have any comments or any concerns on the strategic
I do not.
plan?
I'm just anxious to, get some guidance.
Gene Parks.
I've been at different strategic planning where management controlled the person doing it, and their agenda was that you do things their way. And I'm assuming that you're going to do things. You know what I'm saying?
We're going to do things your way, with your plan.
Okay.
Barbara.
I would expect that. I just wanted to mention it.
Okay.
This is Director Barbara Casas.
Yes, I think probably that this board is seasoned enough to where when you have an agenda and you set the agenda, that we will be able to use it to reach the conclusions that we need to. So I think if you set a regular scheduled meeting, we need more time as a board to discuss things with each other. And if we can do that at a strategic planning meeting without violating any rules, it would be lend a wonderful asset to what we would like to be able to do.
Thank you, Barbara.
Barbara, thank you.
Okay, and Director John Blythe.
No specific comment, but I did see the proposal and it looked fantastic. It looks like the engagement with you guys, with our district, is going to be a great relationship, I feel. So.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, and my name is Ross Elliott. I'm also a director. I too looked over your proposal and was very, very appreciative of it, and I look forward to what you're going to be leading us through. You know, our board has not, since I've been on the board, I've only been on a year, has not had an opportunity to discuss long-range issues, long-range goals strategically. And so this is something we really need to do. You know, we kind of have a haphazard approach right now because we haven't had the opportunity to actually try and get our arms around the big issues. And so we're looking forward to you facilitating that discussion and helping us find our way through it.
Very good, thank you. And I had a question for Charlie. Charlie, what is it that makes you anxious to get going?
Just so that we become gain some methodology to our actions and learning some sort of structure. I mean, things are going to vary over the years, but just operate under a known structure that's going to get us results, so we can quit talking and get results.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you. Charlie, that's a perfect segue to structure. And Ryan is going to put up on the screen the structure that we typically use. This is called the growth management process. And the 5 numbered bubble. Is that visible to everyone on the board?
About the top fifth of the screen's not visible to
Well,
us.
but the 5 numbered ones are, yeah.
Yeah, the top of the bubbles are actually cut off.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
You know, the whole idea of strategic planning is to set the future direction for the organization in the right way. That's number 3, commit to a future direction. And that's the services that you offer, it's how you finance them, it's what you do about seismic, and how you interact with your community. And all of those important strategic pieces that all of you are responsible for by virtue of your election. And so what we found over the many years that this process is that there are 2 things that you can do ahead of time to really be sure that the future direction is right. The first one we call describe the relevant environment. And that's a time to identify what are the issues that are pressing on the district, those issues which should be resolved during the strategic planning process, and some information gathering. And whenever we work with a public entity, it's important to do some information gathering from the constituents during the describe phase. So one of the things that we'll be talking about is who is it in your community that you'd like to reach out to, and how would you best like to reach out to them, get some input for the planning. And in fact, we find that it's better to get the input early in the process rather than waiting for the strategic planning meeting when you're ready to make some final decisions and then invite the public in. By then, it's really too late to formulate options. So it's really important during the first describe phase to do whatever reach out we're going to do to the community and not rush that phase at all and get good input. The second phase we call conclude about our situation. And that's the first half of the planning meeting, is to take all that input that we've gotten, some of the factual information that's the background for it, and we use a visual process to show what the different priorities might be. And it isn't Ryan and I doing the work. We're there to facilitate your conversations. We tend to do this with big stickies because it lets you plan an outline form rather than having big, thick binders. And it really allows you to move these stickies around in such a way that they do reflect your priorities for the future. And then the second part of the planning meeting is commit to a future direction, where you really do make the strategic decisions that are important to be made. When that is finished, also during the planning meeting, we will introduce you to the action plan process, but we won't try and go too far, because typically what happens after the future direction is set, it's a handoff where the board and senior staff involve others from the healthcare district and possibly others from the community to create some action plans, and then fifth, to integrate those with the operations, with the current staffing and the people that are working in the district now. It just outlines how their jobs might change, or whether we need any additional team members to implement the strategic direction you've settled on. So I have one more slide to show, but before I do, are there any questions about this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 process that we'll be taking? This is the structure that Ross was looking for.
Good.
I'm sorry, that Charlie was looking for.
I'll take credit for it.
No, that explains a lot.
Okay. Well, the way this lays out onto a calendar, and Ryan's going to put up a different diagram here. There we go. Again, I'll start in the middle. The best way that the strategic planning works is to have a meeting. You can do it all in one day. We think it's better if you use the afternoon of one day and the morning of the next one to spread it over 2 days, because it's exhausting and it's a lot to think about. But we will flow however you like on that. And that's one of the things we'd like to get some early input on is what's the right timing for a meeting like that? June is probably rushing it a little bit. July, August might work just fine, but I'm not sure, you know, nobody knows about vacations right now, and I'm not sure what your sense of urgency is. So we'll want to talk about the right timing for that meeting and then back into that for community input. So on the left side of the diagram, the little computer, that's what's happening today, is an orientation to the process. And then Ryan will move his cursor over to the three little circles there with the people in them. This is where we get together with you, ask you to do a little bit of preparation, maybe have a thought partner about what are the issues that different faces. And we'll do this over Zoom as well, and figure out what are the issues that you'd really like to address. Brian and I will then get together with the district staff and decide what's the information that should be put together to help you make the decisions you'll be making. And then we go to the meeting, consensus on strategy. Then the right side of the diagram, after the planning meeting, we hang around with our clients for a while to make sure that some of the strategic initiatives actually get woven into the organization. That'll be part of the planning meeting, is for you to decide which are the first ones you want to get working on. So you'll see the top of the diagram is really a calendar. You know, first, focus to planning with some preparation. Second, a meeting, which is consensus on the future direction and strategy of the district. And then the third one is follow through. That's how it lays over on top of the circles. The circles are underneath it. So you can see that the scribe circle is the preparation, to conclude, commit, create happen during the meeting, then integrate, monitoring happen afterwards. I have no question that you will do a good job of monitoring. I've been quickly through your financial reports, and you are already an organization that takes accountability seriously. So, you know, I don't anticipate any issues there. But I know you've got some tough issues to chew on, and so that's the approach that we take. And again, I would turn it back to you and say, are there any questions or comments about this approach to updating your strategic plan?
I look forward to it.
It looks exciting. I have been involved in a lot of strategic plans, and I really like the model you've got.
And I'm sorry, who's that talking?
This is Ross, Chair.
That's Ross, okay. Well, you know, it's also kind of fun because it gives you an opportunity to reach out to others in the community and to talk about some of the big stuff that you just don't get to talk about in a regular board meeting. So Ryan and I are both looking forward to working with you. We will get with you, Tim, and sort of map this out in more detail. The one question I would have is, to the board, what are you thinking about timing? What's the right month to have a strategic planning meeting? And how fast or how slow would you like to move the preparation? So any comments you might have on that today would be helpful.
Really nice up here in August.
Is it going to be Zoom or is it going to be?
It'll
be live. No, this was going to be live.
You're going to be here, right, Rob?
Yes, yes. For the strategic planning meeting, I will be with you, and the weather doesn't matter. I grew up in southern Missouri with mosquitoes and humidity, so anything's better.
We probably should make it late July or August to make sure everything is open.
That's what I was thinking for that. Yeah. You know, with the coronavirus thing, we had initially wanted to have this off-site, you know, maybe at a restaurant or some conference room somewhere, and we don't know what the availability of those kind of facilities are right now, so we may end up just having it here on site. You know, we've been wanting to get this strategic plan going, and of course it got waylaid because of the coronavirus. And you know, from our perspective, the sooner the better. we haven't discussed this with Tim, timing, with Tim, and of course, staff is going to have a huge role in this process. So we don't want to make his life too difficult. A little difficult's okay, but not too difficult.
What's on timing?
Yeah. So, if we can make substantial progress with the background research and community outreach in June and July, and possibly have the meeting late June or mid August,
Late July.
or late July. Yeah, sorry, late July or mid August. Then any objections to?
No,
some
well, I'm
approach
sure that
like
we can come up with an agreeable time and place. I have some ideas on some places outside the campus here that are well equipped and are available to us.
Okay. And are there any particular preferences on a full day meeting versus spreading 8 hours over 2 different days?
Should be over 2 days because some of us are older and we can't put that much in our head all at once.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah, I think that was one of the beauties of your presentation or your proposal to us was making it over 2 days. So you do get a chance to sleep on it, and other ideas may come to us, and we may even change our opinions overnight, and priorities may change. So yeah, I kind of like that approach.
Okay, very good. Let's ask Tim. Tim, any comments on timing?
No, I mean, that timing, I think it will work fine. It's like I said, I agree. This is something that we've been wanting to get done for some time and so forth. I think, obviously we will focus and hone in on obviously getting the data collection started and get that moving. And then, like I said, it's I'm anxious to get into some of the discussion on this and direction that, again, it helps because it's a great roadmap for us and kind of telling us where we need to focus our energies and so forth. So looking forward to it very much.
Tim, the other question for you, we typically work with senior staff and the board. Who is it on your team that you would expect to be part of the planning team?
Probably myself, Mark Gordon, my chief nursing officer, Chet Beadle, my CFO, Greg Davis from our clinic, and probably I've got one other, probably Shannon Jimerson is our outpatient services director, who again, since again, I think that's where a lot of the trends are going, that we probably want her involvement and input in that as well.
Okay, very good.
Plus other staff, as they wish.
Will Dr. Finstead have an involvement with this?
Any other questions or comments from board or staff?
We're having a little earthquake here, so.
Oh, is that what that is?
Holy,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a pretty good one.
Well, that's a 3
it's
something.
not over. Yeah. I bet you this is Ridgecrest again.
It's probably a 6 in Ridgecrest.
Oh, yeah. Ridgecrest has been having them consistently since last summer. And they had what was it, a 7.1
7.1,
Yeah,
and
7.1.
6.5.
last July?
July, a year ago.
The 7.1 happened the next day.
That was on, yeah.
Oh,
The room still looks pretty steady to me.
Yeah, we're,
Only
it's
on the
pliable.
surface.
We're already seismically compliant in this room, I guess. Yeah.
So that's serendipity to have an earthquake when we're talking about one of the issues might be seismic compliance.
Yeah.
I've had that happen once before.
Where was
They
it?
felt that
It
there's,
that it meant the little barcodes on the grocery shelf that tell you the price. And they were using the very first Xerox laser
yeah, I know,
printer.
it's,
They were
it's
running
aftershocks.
a vinyl substrate through it to make these little grocery labels. And we were doing strengths and problems in their strategic planning. And one of the people said, the biggest problem and threat we have is what happens if the laser printer catches on fire. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, a stranger goes off, and it was the shop foreman saying the laser printer.
Oh,
Wow.
So that meeting stopped for about 20 minutes till we got the fire put out, and then the planning resumed. Hey, we're looking forward to being with you guys. Thank you very much, and you know, you're a district that's doing good work for your community. We already know that about you, so it's just a matter of taking it out into the future. Not like working with a group where everything's broken. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob, for
Five,
Thank
there's
you.
a 5.1 in Searles Valley,
Okay,
Ridgecrest.
all right. Another Ridgecrest earthquake.
Yeah, I'm sure that rattled a few
Well, I'm glad
people.
they were able to share it with us.
Rob, thank you very much.
Okay. Good night, all.
You're welcome to
Thank
sit in if you'd like to.
Thank you. I've got a call coming up, but I'll hang with you for a bit.
All right. Well, we won't hold it against you if you hang up on us. But
I'll check out in a little while. Thanks very much.
thanks, Rob. Okay, so where are we on our agenda? To item G, reports. A foundation report. Who is doing our foundation report
I
tonight?
will do the foundation. Oh, foundation report will be the auxiliary.
Hey, Carrie, can you adjust that camera a little bit so that can we pick up
Tip it up. So
Debbie
they
at
can be
all?
seen.
No, I'm gonna move this chair over here.
Don't fall. off
Don't
it.
fall. Hey, there's
Hopefully
another
not
earthquake.
Who is that? The meeting face to face.
That's our IT manager.
Very tall.
Okay, thanks. Carrie.
So I don't have a lot to report because we haven't met. We are planning to meet
Thanks,
this month. Right now, we're still moving forward with River Rhythms. We have the bands. We're out collecting money from some of our sponsorships.
Is he gonna let you?
We
Meet?
don't have the final permit that they've been paid for and everything, so it's not till August. It happens in July, but right now we're moving forward. We are also planning to do the diabetic class again this year, and there again, it's kind of on hold until we see where this COVID's going. Some of the stuff that we're just kind of on a hold again right now. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
Okay, and our auxiliary report. Cindy's not here.
I will give that. They were very happy to announce that they have reopened the auxiliary thrift shop. It opened on Monday, and their plan is to open it 3 days a week. It'll be open on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays initially. And while they were shut down, for several months here, they really had an opportunity to get in and clean things out. Everything was repriced. They've taken everything out of the C trains down there, and so their members basically like the idea of the 3 day week because this kind of gives them a day in between to kind of recover from the day before, clean things up, kind of get things repriced and so forth. And when the public found out about that, they basically were fine. Their biggest comment to them was, "We're just happy you're open," and so whatever days you're open, we're pleased. They're also pleased to announce that they made over $2,300 on the first day. It's the single biggest day they've ever had.
Holy cow.
So people came with cash. I mean, they actually had a wad of cash when the day was done, and so they were thrilled. And so they're very happy to get going, and we will continue to grow. We'll see, and we'll add additional days, as staffing allows and so forth with them, because obviously they've got some people that are still kind of not comfortable getting involved again because of their age and conditions and so forth. But those that have did a fine job, a really fine job. So that's their report.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. Yes.
Is Cindy okay? This is 2 meetings she missed, and
Yeah, they're probably staying away because of the COVID and stuff like that. I thought she was going to try and call it tonight.
She's fine. I ran into her about 4 days ago.
Yeah, she's actually working at the hospital.
Yeah.
She's actually doing quite well.
okay, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, medical staff report. I don't see Dr. Finstead.
I will give that report as well.
Okay, Tim.
Not quite as bad as last month where I had first all of them.
Dr. Magoo.
But Pharmacy and Therapeutics Committee met on May 8th. The committee reviewed and approved 2 policies, one with changes. And that was hair and beard restraints and hospital-approved abbreviations, which was a big one. The committee was updated on current COVID-19 issues. The committee reviewed various monthly and quarterly reports and studies, such as blood usage, blood culture reports, medication area inspection compliance, medication shortages, restraint usage, Foley cath usages, MRSA, AST monitoring, hand hygiene, and surgical site infections. On May 12th, the Medical Executive Committee met. 4 credential files were reviewed and approved for appointment. Dr. Bailey for plastic surgery. He also does wound care here in SNF. Dr. O'Connell for teleneurology. Pedodium for teleneurology as well. And also Dr. Boiser for teleneuro. The 3 of them. So the committee also reviewed and approved 3 policies and 3 forms: infectious diseases privilege form, PA privilege form, outpatient surgery H&P form, hospital approved abbreviations, hair and beard restraint, and the standardized procedures. And the committee was updated on COVID-19 issues. On May 20th, the Emergency Department Committee met. Committee reviewed statistical reports through April 2020. The committee reviewed a new alcohol withdrawal protocol recently put in place. There were 4 studies that were reviewed: order time to antibiotics for pneumonia, blood culture analysis, risk benefits of transfer, and ED clinical quality measures. MERP committee met on May 21st, 2020, and the committee reviewed various reports related to medication error reporting. Reviewed were current issues of the ISMP, which is the Institute for Safe Medication Practices newsletters. There's go out to all the hospitals and so forth, and we get some great ideas of what's going on in other hospitals that we look to implement here. And that's pretty much the medical staff report.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Questions, comments? Okay, who's doing the CEO report?
I'll give that to Mark. Obviously, we have.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll do your report.
That concludes his report.
We started our community testing program this last week. We are doing testing on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Very pleased to report that we tested over 70 patients on the first 2 days. And we did another 33 cases today testing. So we're up to 103 people that we've tested so far. The first day we did it by appointment only. And we had roughly 38 appointments, 39 appointments. And so we ended up that day, I think we had like 5 or 6 people that either declined or decided to move their schedule to the next day or whatever. But we also had 6 people that drove in and just asked if they can get it done. And so we accommodated them. And so on Thursday, which is the second day, we had, I think, 19 scheduled. And we ended up doing 32 that day, mostly drive-in. Today, we had no patients scheduled, and we did 33. So people are responding to the Facebook posts. They're reporting, I think, to Charlie in what you're announcing, and newspapers and so forth. We are going to have some conversations about getting more flyers out to various places at the grocery stores and post offices and things like that we can do, because we want to get as many people tested as we can. And so the county is very pleased with the progress so far. And like I said, this will continue. Our agreement with them continues through the end of July. And then we'll kind of see what's going on at that point in time. I think one of the things that is a big concern for everybody is what's going on here in Kern County. The county got permission from the state to reopen a lot of the businesses and so forth with some modified criteria that a lot of the hospitals help to contribute to. And at that point in time, there was a threshold that was set for the number of new cases per 100,000 population. And we were at 4.1 per 100,000 2 weeks ago. As of yesterday, that number is now 8.0. So we have literally doubled in the number of new cases per 100,000 population. That's not a good thing if you want to stay open. What we don't know at this point in time is whether or not this is due to all of the new testing sites that the county has. Obviously ours, there was one in Ridgecrest, there's one in Oildale, I think there's one in Mojave. So there's a number of new sites that have come online, and my hope is that that's what's guiding this. But that's something that I know the CEOs were discussing tonight. We were supposed to have our meeting at 5 o'clock, and our meeting got moved up, so I wasn't able to participate. But anyway, I'll get some feedback from them tonight, because county was on the board on a phone call with them.
Do you know if they're seeing any more hospitalizations?
Hospitalization rate has climbed a little bit, not significantly.
Hasn't doubled?
No.
Okay.
And I think that's the thing that everybody is really, really monitoring, because that's the one big change that we got the governor to sign off on. Because the whole concern was not necessarily the number of COVID patients we had, but the number that were requiring hospitalizations. And because their big concern there is overwhelming the system and so forth. And so far that hasn't happened. So I think they were normally running between 30 to 40 cases per hospital. I think it's the 50 maybe, last thing I saw, and so forth. So they're continuing to monitor that. But we want to be very careful. Obviously, the concern is that as things have opened up, people have stopped taking precautions. Again, a lot of people, especially up here, as many of you have observed around the lake on the weekends and so forth, people are coming up, no masks. They're right on top of each other. They're going into the stores, even though the Vons and so forth is asking people to wear masks, they ignore that. And so forth, and so that's gonna create some issues. They're seeing the exact same things down in Bakersfield as well. The county health department is monitoring this very, very closely, and like I said, we're kind of all being asked to kind of make sure that we continue to monitor our surge capacities, just in the event this does take off. Again, I think with the riots and the protests that are going on, I mean, it's bringing hundreds of thousands of people together in very, very close proximity. And even though it appears like most of them are wearing masks when you see it on TV, the likelihood that we're going to see a bump just from that alone is probably real. And so that's, again, a complication to the whole COVID situation. CDPH issued an order requiring all residents in our SNF and all of our staff who interact with those residents to be tested for COVID at least monthly. This is in response to a directive from CDC and CMS. The SNF had a development plan to reduce the chance of passing COVID to the resident, and also how we will address it if the resident or staff member should develop it. And so Mark's worked on that with Sally. The plan was submitted to the state yesterday for review and approval. Actually, Monday. That was submitted. Physical therapy has reopened this week and are now seeing patients in the department again. We're doing that. I asked the department to put together a plan for how they were going to handle that. They're primarily limiting access to the department. They are cutting down the number of patients that they will see at any given time to, I think it's 2 or 3 patients. They've got 2 staff members in there. And then we will continue to monitor. Their temperatures are being taken, and they're being asked for their health status before they go in and before they start therapy. If they have fever or anything else like that, they're asked to go home and continue working from home until that is passed. So far, what I'm hearing is very positive things from the staff. Again, one of the issues we had was how are we going to get them into the building, because we're really trying to make sure that we don't let people open the doors and let people in. And so they've actually installed a doorbell over there by the PT doors, and the patients will ring the doorbell and they will come out and bring them in, which was acceptable to us. And they're obviously making them wash their hands before, when they, you know,
Are you doing temp checks at that point?
we're doing temp checks right there, right? And then they're obviously gelling up before and after they're done. And the equipment is all sanitized in between patient uses. So they've got a very thorough plan that's been approved by Mary Completo, our infection control nurse. So again, we're happy to get them going. Just a quick update on surgery. Surgery's opened a couple weeks before. Since we've reopened our outpatient surgery program, we've done 24 cases. We had 6 surgeries that we've done and 18 GI cases. We are scheduled to have another 9 GI cases this coming Tuesday. And so very pleased, the physicians are anxious to get started again. I know Dr. Baika was very pleased. He always looks at his numbers that he does. And he said, well, I should have a great month this time because he comes up every other Tuesday. And this month we have 3 Tuesdays. And so he said, I'm going to have some real good numbers this month. So, so we're obviously pleased to hear that, that he's looking for that. Again, the hospital was approved for its PPP loan. We received a little over $2.43 million in that. And that money will be used, obviously, to meet payroll demands and other qualified expenses. So that was we're very pleased to get that going. We have started open enrollment for our employee health plan. Obviously, this is something that every year we kind of, you cringe on because you don't know what kind of increases you're going to be getting. I think in the industry now and on a national level, and especially here in California, we're used to seeing double-digit increases come through. We were very, very pleased when we saw only a 5.8% increase come through. That's extremely reasonable considering everything that's gone on. So again, we are starting the open enrollments. I think they started today. Is that correct, Mark? Today they started open enrollments. He's got us on mute. Yeah, so they'll be going on for I think the next week or two. And everything is being done, obviously, in regards to COVID. It's all being done for virtual meetings, private meetings with each employee, no group sessions or anything like that, and so forth. So it's presenting some new challenges for us. But again, it's, I think people are pleased. And the other cost increases that we saw for, I think, the dental and one of the other plans, I don't know, was vision, because those were 2-year contracts. Those rates stayed the same. And then one of the other ones was also a very minimal increase on the other plan. So that's going on. And then the last thing, just really kind of as a comment more on the state budget, that process has got a lot of people concerned, especially in the healthcare industry. And right now, the budget, the state was projecting a $54 billion deficit. And the governor was looking at significant reductions in Medi-Cal payments through the health plans and directly. And that's a huge concern, primarily because they were also budgeting 2 million more enrollees in the plan. So I'm not sure how you're going to cut the costs and then expect to see that kind of significant increase in volume. So there's obviously a lot of work to be done. There's going to be a lot of advocacy work that we're being asked to do from the hospital perspective in support of this, and also on a federal level. There are some plans to try and put some additional stimulus money out there for the hospitals. And so I'm working with the Hospital Association right now and getting our calls made to our senators and to our House of Representatives, in our case, Kevin. And so trying to get them to support this additional reimbursement for the hospitals and clinics throughout the state. And that is my report.
Questions, comments?
No, good job on the PPP. I know it's in a small way taking money from one pocket and putting it in the other. We're all going to pay for it eventually, but that's a huge thing. It's my understanding too that both the Senate and the legislative branch up in Sacramento are fighting tooth and nail about this, about where he wants to make the cuts.
Right.
I know education is, can be very negatively affected if it goes through as he has it written now, so probably going to be a little bit before we find out which way it goes.
That's true. Yes.
All right, Tim, thank you.
You are.
Thanks, Tim.
Okay, Chief Nursing Officer report. Mark?
The answer to your question, Tim, is yes. I was on mute at the time, but I started mine this morning.
Could you put it back
I
on
saw it on
now?
the screen here, so.
We can read lips, just put it back on now.
So the CNA program began their clinical rotations. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the students are receiving infection control education, and they're pre-screened prior to entering the facility, just like all the other staff. They've all received their COVID-19 PCR testing as well as mandated by the state. Unfortunately, these guys, they have been moved around twice already now because of COVID. They were in the ICU, but now that we had to move them out of the ICU for that space, they went across the street to the church, across the street, the Pentecostal church offered up their space. Well, they told us on Wednesday last week that they needed space back for Sunday service because they relaxed the standards. We had to quick go and move all that stuff back over. So it looks like they're going to find a home in the old classroom. So we're making arrangements to make that work right now. We still have struggles with some of our PPE, but we are replacing that, and I'm reporting that daily to the state as far as our ability to replenish that stock. It seems to be holding its own right now, so I'm pretty comfortable that we. But I've been informed that we probably should start stockpiling some of that stuff, and so that's what we've kind of indicated to Christine, our materials manager, to start kind of trying to bolster some of those supplies. We are still doing our best to conserve those supplies. Our emergency preparedness procedures include temperature testing, as you know. We do have adequate signage to alert people about the need for pre-screening prior to entering the building. However, they need to read it. It never ceases to amaze me. I can look out the window over by the ER and watch people walk right by the sign without coming in and reading. So it's a constant battle to get people to comply. As far as staff are concerned, we're making sure auditing has been suggested to ensure that staff are complying with the pre-screening requirements. When things start getting comfortable, people start getting fatigued with having to do this stuff. So I'm going to be doing an audit to make sure everybody's getting pre-screened before the end of the building. That has not been relaxed. It looks like yesterday we saw some pretty comfortable numbers in the ER. We saw 25 patients, which is not a bad number for us. I'm hoping that trend continues, and I'm sure Chet is hoping the same. Yes. The other thing is the outpatient services department. I want to give enough credit to Shannon Jimerson for setting up that program outside in the front of the hospital. She did a really tremendous job putting that together, and she and the other folks that are out there, Rebecca from the lab, Joy from education, and they had another LVN student that just graduated up there with them today. They were all out there for Michelin.
I think too, Mark, just also want to give a shout out to the admitting staff. Because obviously as we've moved away from scheduled appointments where we could pre-register patients, they're doing it here. which basically means that between every one of those patients, they're having to run all the way to admitting to print off the labels that we need for the tubes.
Good.
And so forth. So it's a huge back and forth issue, which we're going to be working on for the next couple of days to fix that. See if we can't get a printer closer to them or out there on
Hoping
site
that
somewhere.
the mobile clinic can perform some of that function for them. And if there are no questions, that's my report.
Questions or comments, anybody? All right, thank you, Mark. Okay, Chief Financial Officer report. Chat?
Okay, good evening. I'd like to talk tonight about the month of April, but before I start, I kind of like to set the scene for the month of April because it's different, obviously, as have been mostly since the coronavirus pandemic started. So, the month of April, we're now in our second month since the pandemic has started. The prior month, the month of March, about half of that month, we were aware of the pandemic and we had some orders from government and others really to try to reduce some of the things to make sure that we were not overwhelmed in the healthcare system from patients testing positive COVID-19. So we know that in the month of March, and we had about 2 weeks of it, that we actually came through at about $1 million. We had been running about between 9.2 and $9.7 million a month in revenue, gross revenue generation. We know that in the month of March we had 8.3, and so we had about $1 million that we did not generate for those 2 weeks that we were in the coronavirus period than what we had been. Now, in the month of April, we wanted to see what that would do. Instead of generating, you would anticipate that if we had that $1 million of difference for 2 weeks, we'd have $2 million difference for 4 weeks, or around a month. Well, that was pretty close because basically from our 9.3, 9.4 average, we generated $6.9 million only in the month of April. Okay. Where did that come from? Well, if you any of you that want to follow along or look later, you can. Page 8 of the financials has a trend analysis. And I'm looking at the last 6 months right now. So the first thing I look at is the top line, which is inpatient. Inpatient has ICU, acute care, and swing in it. And it has the ancillary services that are associated with those, as well as revenue from those patients that we are observation patients and the ancillaries that are associated with it. So prior to March, we're generating about $1.3 million in inpatient revenue from these things. And in the month of March, we actually go down to $1 million. So we lose about $300,000 in revenue generation there between the ancillaries and the inpatient services. In the month of April, we go on down to our inpatient revenue, including ancillaries, for the month of April was $920,000. So we actually are $400,000 to $500,000 off of what we had been prior to the second thing we have is the clinic. And actually we were hopeful with the, because in the month of March, even though we had a 2-week time under the COVID-19, in the month of April, with the whole month, and let me say for the month of March, they did not really have that much of a difference. They've been running about 1.2 picked up some things, but basically it's repairs and maintenance, pretty much staying flat the way it was before. Leases and rentals, obviously that's an accrual loss, so it stays about the same. And then depreciation stays about the same. So, whereas in the month of February, we had 147,000 in operating profit or surplus. In the month of March, we had 355,000 loss in operations in the month of March, and in the month of April, 774,000 loss. And you can say, wow, we're going to deal with all that. Let me give you a picture of around us, okay? The first week in April, I started having a conference call with all of the chief financial officers of all of the district hospitals in the state of California. Not just the critical access, but all the district hospitals, including the larger ones in like Antelope Valley, Via Delta. Okay. All those people are in this group that are talking about district hospitals. So everyone is losing revenue, just like, actually worse than we are. Ours wasn't that dramatic because of skilled nursing. They're losing between 20% and 50% of their revenue, with a few anomalies like Mammoth, who does mostly surgeries, and they lost 80% of their revenue. 80% of their revenue went away as soon as they stopped the outpatient surgery levels. Okay, so basically, we kind of held our own by having the amount come in from the skilled nursing that we do during the coronavirus pandemic. Non-operating pretty much stays relatively the same. Some months a little better. It was actually a pretty good month in the month of April because we got the 3-month interest that came in from our investment at Latham, at Trader's office. And that's usually, at this point in time, about every 3 months, we get a check for about $27,000, $28,000. Helps. It actually pays more than, it's accrual now on a quarterly basis. It's more than the monthly amount of accrued property taxes. So that helps. So when we got through and got out, where are we going to be? We lost as I said, we made 125,000. Staff were even non-operating in the month of February. We lost 360 in the month of March, where we had half a month, and we lost 753 in the month of April. Okay, so what does that mean on a year-to-date basis for Kern Valley? What it means is that a year ago, through 10 months, we have lost $281,000 for 10 months. The budget was for us to make $532,000 profit. We were close to our budget coming along with that. And now where we are after 10 months is we've lost $700,000 that we have to deal with. Now that's the number side. But additionally, what's happening? What's happening is all these chief financial officers that I talk to every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock are trying to do everything they can to take advantage of everything that's out there to say, great for the first responders, great for our heroes. We're going to get some money from the federal government. We have had 5 stimulus checks from the federal government. One of them in excess of $3.3 million. So I just attested to the last one, it was a little less. Today, I'd already attested to the first 3. So we ended up getting right at $4 million in stimulus money from the federal government. Wow. That isn't all. Okay? The thing that was available on the front end was, okay, you guys can get an advance because your business is going down, and because you apply for it and you qualify, you can get an advance of money. So I applied for Medicare advance for the hospital. Okay? And we got a 6-month advance on all our Medicare payments. Then I applied for Medicare advance for the clinic, and we got a 3-month advance for all of our business in the clinic. Then some of the hospitals, they did a lot of business with some of the insurance companies. We're trying to get the insurance companies to do something. And they have, I don't know, our biggest single health plan is Current Health System. It's Medical Managed Care. I approached them, and they gave me a 3-month advance money for the clinic. Most of their just outpatient business, the money for the all that money flowed. Some of it, yes, were loans. Some of them were advances where they take it later. Some of it we didn't have to pay. The very last thing that happened, there's one small stimulus check, as I said, it came in about a week ago. Most of the others came in substantially earlier. Most of them came in the April. So what we then did, as I also did, was we had the opportunity of qualifying. It initially came out, healthcare didn't qualify. Loans for the CARES Act. We went ahead and applied, which we were at 2.5 times our average monthly payroll. Totally out the documents for that, more than 2.5 times. We put that money, you get that money, we put it into our payroll account. That 75% of that money must be used on payroll during the 8 weeks from the day you get the check or you get the money from the bank, the loan initially, from a bank that does small business loans, type loans and qualifies. And then basically, once you get it, you have 8 weeks to spend it on 75% of it on salaries. Okay, think about what I'm saying here. Average monthly times 2.5. So basically, you're getting 2.5 times your average, but you've got to spend it in 8 weeks. So there's a couple of other things that do qualify. Some of our benefits, and what we will do, we will also, during the month of June and July, we'll pay our workers' comp from this money. We'll pay our employer portion health care from this money. Okay? And we'll pay our matching of the employer matching on the pension plan from this money, so that we can take that other 25% and I'll actually have to spend every bit of that, and we can show that we have, because if you do, then you don't have to pay it back. So that's where we are. Certainly, the extra money coming in from stimulus money and from money that may be forgiven is much greater than what we have potentially lost in volume drop, revenue drop, net revenue drop, collectible revenue. That's kind of where we are with that. And let me just take you through a little bit of the comparative for the month of April as it related to cash. Okay? So,
What
I
page?
basically said is we were going to start out April for this year on my budget of actually not including the reserves from LAIF at about 575 negative in our operating account. So you could have money, but basically we'd
Page 23.
be down, playing the flow of about 575,000. Because of March, and we got some of the money in March a little bit, we were at 545 positive. So I said in my budget for the beginning of this fiscal year that we would collect $2.2 million, mostly from claims. There would be, relatively speaking, not much else coming through the system but to pay for claims. But what it actually ended up happening is the miscellaneous, which is money coming through that aren't necessarily related to claims. I had $134,000 for the month of April. We actually collected, with all this money coming in, this extra money in miscellaneous, $7.4 million. We actually we paid some things, and I'll get into that story in just a second, but basically we had $3 million that we sent either to investment or we paid things off. Now, one of the things, and let me just take the operations side first. Salaries were a little higher. I had put in 945. We spent $1 million. 316 in professional fees. We did 320. Supplies 294. We did 304. Now here we go. Other, I had 649,000 in other. We did $1.6 million. So we caught up on some things that we had money to catch up on. And we actually only spent $10,000. It was on an existing bill for construction, and we paid our account mortgage loan. So that's it for operations, or just the operating expenses, cash flow, disbursements. I had 2.3, it was 3.3, so we spent an extra $1 million there. But we also put $1 million in delay. I did not have in my budget. We also had, from IGT funding, I did say that we would actually matching have the 365, 366. It ended up being 286 on the matching side. And we did exactly what I was saying on the bond was $50,000. So the payments actually were at $4.6 million because of that $1 million that went out delayed, because we don't count that here, even though it's still our money, versus the 2.4 being in operations that I had in the budget. And once this money started flowing, I got a call from, not really a call. You will recall that the board approved the renewal of the line of credit with, that's guaranteed by Cal Mortgage. It's actually with West America Bank for $5 million. It's restricted to IGT matching, but it's actually guaranteed by Cal Mortgage. Well, although that happened before the pandemic ever came along, board approved it, bank approved it, and we had word approval from Cal Mortgage. Well, all of a sudden I got a letter. They had never done any formal. And what they did was they sent the contract of insurance, which Tim got, and for renewal, and put it through so that that would happen. That's on the bonds. And then they sent me a letter and said, you want to draw your attention to something that's already been in your debt relief plan, and we're going to reiterate it again. And that is, if your days cash on hand goes above 60, we can take all your money until it gets down to 60 that you have over and above that. And we had substantially over and above 60. I think probably what we set right now is about 140 days cash on hand. So they would have been able to take a good portion of this lion's share of the cash that we had. And we were, what I did, I got back to them and I sent them email, and I said, you need to be careful here. I said, because not all this money is grant money. Not all this money is stimulus money. A lot of this money is money that we've had advanced for Medicare and Medicare managed care and payroll, and it's your back. You have to pay it back. You can't take money. It's just a loan, okay? You can't take money out for a loan. The big situation where they understood that, we then made a calculation for them and a spreadsheet that went to their people, and I haven't heard anything more from that, but I did one other thing. What I did was, I told Barbara, I said, look at the line of credit that we've had for quite a while, about $330,000 out there in the line of credit. Take it down to $50,000. Make a check. She did that. I signed it and Tim signed it. I said, second thing is, they're grumbling and groaning because we have this payment for principal and interest due August 1st for $775,000. And so let's pay that right now so that we get that behind us and they won't be talking about it anymore. That won't upset them. Barbara says, well, why don't we actually go ahead and pay them the interest that comes on the next payment due February 1st of 2021? Okay. Right now, we could probably live with that. Yeah, go ahead. So they're now, the bond money is now paid through January, or actually through February, excuse me, of 2021. All paid up. One more thing. I said what they would do this with this money, if they got it, they would try to pay off $6.1 million. What is going to be $6.1 million in the debt relief plan. I said, let's give them a token. Let's give them $250,000. We made a check for $250,000, told them to put towards the principal in the debt relief plan. Now they've gone away completely. Haven't heard a word. They're totally silent, which is great. And we're still sitting majority of our money either in investment or actually on in the operating accounts. So that's kind of where we were, and we ended up. And our cash actually, it's like if we had gone with my budget, was that for operations, not including the reserves, we would have been at 6 weeks. As I said, we started with 500,000 negative. It would have been at 638,000 negative at the end of April. We actually ended up, and that was actually where we had normal business, not a reduction. We actually ended up is we had $2.9 million positive in our operations availability at the end of April. So that's cash. That's my report, unless you have questions.
Questions or comments?
I have full.
I didn't hear anything you said right after you said hello.
Could you start over?
I think Gene's doing a heck of a job as treasurer. I think that's what this shows.
No, just want